We've all been there. That first little tickle in your throat, the stuffy nose, the aches. You know it's coming. You've caught a cold. And since forever, we've had a clear villain to blame, right? This nasty little virus that just decided to invade your body. But what if that whole story is just wrong? Today, we're putting the common cold on trial.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to look at all the evidence, we're going to cross-examine the witnesses, and we're going to ask a really simple question. What if the virus we've blamed for everything isn't the real culprit? What if it's just, an accessory to a crime it didn't even commit?
Okay, so first things first. Let's look at the case against our usual suspect. This is the story you and I have been told our entire lives, right? In science class, at the doctor's office, everywhere.
So the story goes something like this, and it seems pretty simple, right? A virus gets in, maybe you breathed it in or touched something, it finds some nice healthy cells in your nose or throat, and boom, it hijacks them, turns them into little virus factories, and then just destroys them. And all that misery you feel, your stuffy head, the coughing, well, that's supposed to be the direct result of all that cellular destruction.
And look, this isn't just some old wives' tale. This is the official medical consensus. I mean, the whole paradigm says you absolutely 100% must have a virus to get a cold. No virus, no cold. End of story. Case closed. Or is it?
See, this is where the prosecution's case starts to fall apart. If viruses are really the only thing to blame, and they just spread from person to person, well, there are some facts that just don't quite fit. And it all starts with the incredibly predictable timing of cold and flu season.
And I'm not just talking about a hunch here. A huge 18-year study in The Lancet tracked these viruses all over the world, and they found this wild, super reliable pattern. Viruses spike in the northern hemisphere's winter, and then, literally like clockwork, they spike in the southern hemisphere's winter 6 months later.
So you gotta ask, right? Viruses don't have little calendars or plane tickets. They can't just decide, hey, it's getting warm here, let's fly south for the winter. If their only job is to spread from one person to the next, why on earth would they stick to such a strict seasonal schedule year after year after year?
Now, of course, science has some explanations. You've heard them. We're all stuck indoors, breathing the same air. The virus survives better when it's cold out. Our immune systems are a bit weaker. We don't get enough vitamin D. And yeah, these all sound plausible. They probably play a part. But do they really explain that perfect clockwork timing across the entire globe? It feels like there's a bigger piece of the puzzle we're missing. And this is where we get our first big break in the case. The evidence starts pointing a finger in a completely different direction. Not at the virus, but at the environment itself. So, amazing research from places like Yale and universities in Switzerland completely flips the script. The story we all knew was that the virus is like this battering ram that smashes through our defenses. But what if our defenses were already down? The new evidence says the real first attack doesn't come from a virus at all. It comes from the cold, dry air of winter. The environment strikes first.
Okay, let's talk about your body's frontline security. It's called the mucociliary system, which is a mouthful, I know. But just picture this. It's like a super smart, sticky conveyor belt in your nose and throat. You've got mucus that traps all the gunk, dust, pollen, viruses, and then these tiny little hairs called cilia that are constantly sweeping it all out. It's an amazing barrier, truly.
But, and this is the absolute key, cold, dry air is this system's kryptonite. It gums up the works. It slows down those little sweeping hairs and makes the mucus thick and sluggish. It basically shuts your security system down. Even worse, it dries out the cells lining your airways, causing tiny cracks to form between them. The walls have been breached, not by an invading army, but by the weather. So hold on, if the air is the one breaking down the door, where does that leave our prime suspect, the virus? Well, this is where the story gets really interesting, and the virus's role gets a total rewrite, from master criminal to, well, something else entirely.
This is a total game changer, you guys. The virus isn't some predator hunting down healthy cells. It's more like a scavenger. It just wanders in through those cracks the cold air already made, and it sets up shop in cells that are already damaged and weak. It's not an aggressor, it's an opportunist.
And honestly, when you stop and think about it, this makes so much more sense. A virus is a parasite, right? It needs a living host cell to make copies of itself. So why in the world would its strategy be to immediately destroy the very thing it needs to survive? That's just bad for business. It's like buying a new house and immediately burning it to the ground. So what is it doing in there? Well, this new theory suggests that as the virus starts replicating inside these damaged cells, it's basically setting off an alarm. It's like firing a flare gun into the sky.
It gets the attention of your immune system, which has been kind of sluggish because of the cold, and it's basically shouting, hey, over here, we've got a problem. The walls are down, wake up and get to work.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most shocking twist in the whole story. If the virus isn't destroying our cells and making us feel so miserable, then what is?
Well, believe it or not, it's us. We do it to ourselves. This quote from a medical journal lays it out pretty clearly. Most of the awful feelings we get with a cold, the aches, the fever, the inflammation, it's all caused by our own immune system's response. It's basically friendly fire.
So let's put it all together. Here's the sequence. Step 1. Cold air damages the cells in your airways. Step 2. A virus comes along, sets up shop, and rings that alarm bell. Step 3. Your immune cells come rushing in and just unleash a flood of powerful chemicals to clean up the damage. And step 4, this is the big one, it's those chemicals, your body's own repair kit, that cause the fever, the aches, the congestion, all of it. The symptoms aren't the disease, they're the side effects of the cure.
And you know what? This finally explains something that's always been kind of weird. Why a cold caused by one virus feels pretty much the same as a cold caused by a totally different one. It's because it doesn't matter which virus showed up to the party. The person ringing the alarm bell is different, but your body's response, the cleanup crew that actually causes the symptoms, is always the same.
So let's review the final verdict in the trial of the common cold. In the old story, the #1 culprit was the virus. But in the new story, the real culprit is the cold, dry air. What about the symptoms? We thought they were damaged from the virus, but it turns out they're caused by our own immune response. And the virus itself? It's been demoted from enemy attacker to a messenger, the one who calls for help to start the repairs.
I mean, this completely changes how we think about being sick, doesn't it? It suggests that sometimes what we've always seen as an attack might actually be a kind of clumsy call for help. And it really leaves you with a big question to chew on. If we could get the story of something as common as a cold this wrong for this long, what other villains out there have we completely misunderstood?